and I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Whoops. just it's fine. It gives a shit. Just keep this just keep it in there. It's fine.
Yeah, but play the music.
I will. No, it's fine. I will get it. I'm ready. Here we go. Hello and welcome to Center of Weirdness, the weird podcast about very weird stuff, but we mostly just talk about episodes of TV shows that we find a little strange, a little weird, a little ridiculous.
A little sexy?
A little sexy in this case, for sure. I'm Josh, and with me as always is Sexy Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Hey, all you sexy babies out there. Wait a second. That's not great. This year on the show, we've been trying to do theme months, I guess, kind of. We try to find shows that are thematically connected. We kind of like our theme months on the podcast that we do. At least I do. That's mainly a me thing. But last month we covered a bunch of Nightman. We really wanted to talk about that show. We covered a two-parter that felt like it was really important for us to finally talk about that show. And this month, in March, for Women's History Month, again, this is my bad idea, so please just take it with humor because I mean it that way. We're covering early 2000s female-led action fantasy adventure shows. So first up, we are covering Relic Hunter from 2000, starring Tia Carrere. Basically a Tomb Raider ripoff, essentially. That had 3 seasons, which is crazy because I kind of remember this existed, but
this was
remembering is a
right?
strong word. I assume
it had to be syndicated or UPN or something, like very much like Nightman, like. It's got to be a syndicated show that just showed wherever. Like I can't imagine it being. I can't imagine this being like a show that was on a network.
Right. So let's see. It had a lot of production companies.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, first run syndication. Canadian.
We just don't do that anymore. Like that doesn't. Oh, and it's also Canadian. So
well, I mean, to a degree.
But like we don't have shows that just air wherever anymore. Like things seem so like they are just like locked to a particular like network. Like this is on Peacock, this is on Paramount Plus, this is on Netflix, this is Amazon. Like this is just like you don't just have a show that just appears on TV anymore because we don't really have things like that. Everything is so segmented now.
I feel like the local affiliates are less different from each other now, where you would have like mind you, they're still syndicated, but they're syndicated reruns, so that can change from market to market. But you don't see like a show like, hey, this show is on UPN in this city, and it's on ABC in this city, and it's on CBS in this city, because besides the news and sports package and evening. Between 8 and 10 mega programs, the affiliates can kind of do what the fuck they want.
Looks like according to Wikipedia, I guess they got 3 seasons because it was part of their initial contract. So it had a 3-season, 66 episode guarantee, and then it was not renewed after they finished those 3 seasons.
Man, it was just someone said like, what if we just take Tia Carrere and put her into Tomb Raider, and somebody said, okay, you got 3 seasons.
Yeah, basically. Like, and they shot it all in Toronto.
You mean this wasn't in Italy?
Yeah, it's a globe-trotting show that only shot in Toronto.
Toronto is a very multicultural city. One of the most multicultural cities in the whole world.
Yeah, they've got Italian basements. They've got cafes outdoors that sell only San Pellegrino.
A soccer field, clearly at a local high school.
That was clearly in Milan, Italy.
Milano.
So we are talking about episode, what is this, 8?
I think
is it?
I think it's episode 8 or 9 of season 1.
I believe it is 9.
Okay, let me pull up that info. I don't want to give the wrong information. Yeah, it looks like episode 9, season 1 aired in November of 1999, titled "The Book of Love." And basically, I guess the premise of this show, if you don't know, is that Tia Carrere plays an American archaeologist named Sydney Fox.
She's a fox.
Yeah, who's very foxy. This is the era where you could name you named your characters what they were. Also, it's very funny that that's her name, and that she's also like probably best known for Wayne's World, which was them kind of objectifying women, and anyway, they kind of do that a little bit in this show as well.
What are you talking about? That swim scene was how would this episode have gone forward without a minute of her swimming in slow motion in a pool?
Yeah, I like you had a funny point at that. We'll get into the episode proper obviously in a second, but you had a good point about that of like if the episode was like centered on her having to swim to get to this relic, it would kind of fit thematically of why they're showing this minute-long sequence of her swimming in slow motion. But she doesn't do that. There's no swimming involved in the actual finding of this relic or battling the bad guys. So we just had to have this in here. We had to be able to see her in a swimsuit and a like sexy outfit at the end. And then we also had to put some other women in swimsuits, and then we also had to frame certain shots where there's just women's asses in the foreground blurred out. It's pretty great. So basically she is an archaeologist with her reserved British assistant Nigel.
Yeah, of course his name is Nigel.
Who has the worst, most 90s, 2000s haircut of all time. Kind of a butt cut sort of thing where it flops on either side. I was telling Skinner that in my gym there is a guy in this year, 2023, who has that haircut, and it looks fucking ridiculous every time I see it. And then over the summer, he and a couple of other guys that he works out with dyed their hair blonde, like bleach blonde, and it looked ridiculous.
That's very Zach at that point.
Yeah, it was terrible. And they work at a university, Trinity College, and they have an assistant who isn't really in this episode that much, Claudia, played by Lindy Booth. And she's very horny and has a weird squeaky voice. It's almost kind of like she is doing a Janine from Ghostbusters kind of riff.
That's what I assumed.
Yeah, it's very similar kind of to that.
She's even framed in the show like she's sitting at Janine's desk.
Yeah, and then they go on adventures to find relics or artifacts or other things. It's basically, it's a Tomb Raider type show. It very much seems like a combo of Tomb Raider and Indiana Jones. Like they just decided to make a Tomb Raider show, but then throw in some Indiana Jones stuff as well. Because of course, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. What I didn't get, and it was probably explained, but one, I have not gotten a lot of sleep the last few nights. And so, two, the show is both boring and quiet at times. So, like,
yes.
you kind of, and at one point, it just kind of had a low buzz going on as the entire soundscape. And so, I kind of drifted off a bit. But I never quite understood. Neither Sydney nor Nigel seem. Okay, when I say seem disinterested in doing this job, I mean. They actively do not want to do it.
Yeah, it seems.
So why are they doing it?
Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe there's other episodes where they seem excited to be looking for the thing that they're looking for, but
whose order is this? Is the college or wherever she works at forcing her to help this soccer player get a?
I don't know. And like how. I have no idea. I think it is very much in that Indiana Jones mold of like, he's a professor, but also he just goes off and does this stuff on occasion.
but she clearly does not want to do it and tells us she doesn't want to do it, and then she's on the plane doing it.
Yeah, it's very stupid. Like, but apparently the openings of each episode, this makes sense for what we saw. There is a short flashback in which the relic or artifact or whatever is used in the original time before it's lost or stolen or hidden. So then it'll cut to the present day where they try to find that relic by someone, and then they go around the world and try to find it. And that's basically what every episode kind of plays out like. I'm sure there's probably deviations from that from time to time, but yeah, I think that's kind of the general plot line for the show. The reason we picked the episode that we did is because it's framed as, and we can watch this on Tubi. Tubi is a great a great platform. I think they had a Super Bowl ad this year, which is pretty amazing. Or a big game ad, excuse me. I don't want us to get us demonetized.
We're monetized?
Yeah, exactly. We have to get monetized first, and then we'll get demonetized. So the Tubi has this and the show that we'll be covering next time, which we'll tell you about at the end here. But we picked it because the synopsis of the episode is: a soccer superstar needs Sydney and Nigel to help find Casanova's personal guide to sex. Which, how can you resist that tagline?
Boy, I mean, it is a great tagline. It is both executed boringly with no energy, and also incomprehensibly. Like, it's just, they just never figure out why they tried the very end to give his like coda as to why he wanted this book.
Yeah. And
why he shouldn't want the book, but it's stupid, and it's just,
well, it's a point. They
don't need the, really, like, I understand that if you're going to do a Tomb Raider type show, which this might be a Tomb Raider derived concept.
Yeah,
it isn't mentioned on the Wikipedia page, but there's also on the IMDb page a poster for the show, which is just basically Tia Carrere being inserted into the Tomb Raider cover art.
It's like, you couldn't look at this and think that it was anything but that. Like, there's no, there's no way.
It's a thesaurus derived name.
Yes.
But you think, like, I understand, like, whatever she's hunting for, coincidentally at that exact moment, even though it's been centuries or hundreds or literally millennia since this thing has been lost, that at that exact moment, a secret society or evil people will also, that very moment, also want exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
But in this case, where they're hunting for a book on lovemaking in Italy, they just could have had it where it was hard to find. And it just took a lot of secrets to find it, instead of having them have the worst fight sequences possible, and the greatest stretches as to why there is a secret society that wants this book as well.
Well, yeah. So but I mean, I think the fights are part of it, because I think she's like a black belt or something. Like,
no, she's not.
she's she's a badass, so they have to be able to show that off.
In Call or Crawl, the one with Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah,
which is fantastic movie with a lot of guitar butt rock, and the fake it snow. But yeah, like, this is a show that loves to stretch out things, much like I am doing right now. And it is, from the very first moment, it is just completely personified by the fact that the credits for this episode, for the show,
oh my god, yeah,
are a full, and I have to stress, there are only two main characters.
Yes.
And the credits for the show, the opening song and sequence, is 1:20 long.
It's so long. Like it is, and the music isn't particularly exciting. It feels very stock music-y. So like I wouldn't be surprised if there was if it was just stock music that they use, like that they didn't have an actual conductor doing this. I wouldn't be surprised. But it's very strange because it goes on for too long, and there's so many moments where it could end. Like you could end it at 30 seconds or 45 seconds or a minute, but they go for 1:20 because they have to put in all these like consulting executive producers and stuff, which I think must have been like a stipulation of the production companies that were making it. So like maybe you had to credit certain people, and so they just had to make these things as long as possible to get everybody's name on there. But it's so long, and it stands out so much. And this show feels like it's very much of a let's do what we can to get this thing to 43 minutes, because that's the whole point of the opening swimming sequence that we see. Like it goes on for so long. The fights go on for a really long time, like longer than they need to. And it's weird because like one fight goes on longer than it needs to. One fight is remarkably short. And then this opening we get where we're flashed back to, Casanova's time in 1749, in his hideaway in Italy. We see him with these two women, and he's also writing in his little book of love. And it's him, these two women, and then also a lute player in the corner. So that dude probably has some stories to tell. He could write a book.
This wonderful little set, which will be reused with different decorations throughout this episode.
Yeah, I think we see the same set probably 3 times, I think, but just in different permutations.
So like, we have this Casanova who we have this one short flashback to prove that he is the greatest lover of all time, and that he's also writing a book about it. And he just is putting fruit in women's mouths and kissing their belly buttons, and then dancing around and throwing them to the floor, and then getting up to write, "I threw them to the floor."
Yeah, he this one woman on like who's laying on a chaise lounge or whatever, he kisses her and they fall down onto the floor, and she laughs, and then he gets up and he's like, "I must write it down so I remember everything." And it's just like, this would get annoying. Like, oh, okay, so I put my penis in here. All right, let me write this down really quick. I gotta remember that.
Done.
To me, I can't forget.
This also, because at this point the church comes in because he's a sinner or whatever. I mean, like Casanova's a real guy. Like he's actually famous for writing about his life. And so there's plenty of like stuff he's written about himself. But this
is also a show that is fine mixing things. Like this episode is about a real person, perhaps, but then the next episode they're looking at the Minotaur's maze, and then one of the earlier episodes they're looking for Elvis Presley's lost guitar, but then also they're looking for the Fountain of Youth in another episode. So they're just mixing and matching whatever they need to make this show work.
But like what this always it really brings up in this scene, which we'll repeat over and over again, is so the church comes there and they confront him, and he.
Oh, I do want to say though, before we find out that it's these monks, the two women go, "Oh, my husband! Oh, my fiance!"
Yes, because he's such a hound that he is.
Yeah,
he's sniffing around other people's women.
Yeah,
but there's this terrible fight, which I thought, well, that's just because he's a lover, not a fighter.
Yes.
But it is exactly how they film all the fights.
Yeah.
Where he's tossing things at them and ducking behind things, and he runs and gets on the bed. They somehow can't get at him on the bed.
Yeah, they have a pillow fight, and he's dodging around the women and throwing the women at them to get away.
But the internal logic of this show appears to be, if someone's after you and have been after you for years or centuries or whatever, if you confront them in a room and fight them and escape, you're good. Like they won't come after. Like they won't hail you for the rest of your life. He just escapes the room and he goes, "Mwah, ciao bella" to the women, and he's fine. Like, maybe they'll just follow you to the next place you go. Like, you it's 1749. You can't jump in a car.
Well, they use that same logic in the last fight too. They just like run away, and you're like, oh, it's over. Okay.
I mean, at the end they have the book. These people are willing to kill them over, and who have followed them and like to where they're at multiple times in the episode.
Yeah.
But apparently, once they defeated them in their lair, they're no longer going to go after this item that this cult has been after for over 300 years.
They think it's an evil object that must be destroyed.
In a way that the logic is so poorly done that they actually point out this is stupid. And he says, well, you don't understand. Old perverted things are more powerful. And they're like, shrug.
Yeah, basically. So we meet Roberto Giannini, who's this like famous soccer player.
He's in 2000 America, there's no one more famous than an Italian soccer player.
Yes, he's very, very famous. So he comes in and basically he wants them to help him find the Book of Love. And they don't want to do it. I guess she's on the phone with someone who I guess gave her name to him at some point, and she's mad about it because she doesn't want to do it. But then he shows up and she's kind of won over, I guess, by his charms and good looks.
But she isn't for the rest of the episode.
Well, it's weird because I think she is, but she's trying to keep it professional, as we learn at the end of the episode. She does not mix business and pleasure. So at the end, she is trying to fuck him, I think. But then
I couldn't tell if she was testing him or she really was.
It's hard to know because I
know who she won't do that with.
Well,
and that's Nigel.
Well, I think that happens eventually. I think they must get together.
3 seasons of him pining after her and her going after every single male guest star.
Yeah,
would be a little bit friend zoned. But he does have that.
I feel like they have to hook up at some point. Like
I would hope not. I think it's funnier if he is too busy just pounding it in the other room to the point where he needs aspirin.
Oh my god. We'll get. This was a racy show for 2000s.
I mean that's particularly that one scene was a little bit more on the, I guess, nose.
Yeah, it's on the something.
Did you enjoy? So he's also happens to be in America coincidentally at that time for a book tour.
Yes, he's promoting,
which
this
never
book
comes
of
up
his.
again.
No, it never was a big deal. He's just got a book. It looks
you
like
love
shit.
His book.
It looks like total shit. It is the hallmark of poorly made television. Where, so I've talked about this on previous podcasts. And I'm actually we're recording this the day after I went to the Art Directors Guild Awards. I'm part of the Art Directors Guild in film and television.
You got any hot celebrity goss from this?
No, not really. I saw there were some great people there. Guillermo del Toro got an award. Nicole Kidman showed up to give an award to Baz Luhrmann and Catherine Martin. It was cool. Annette Bening was there, presenting an award to a Hall of Fame inductee to this production designer that she was friends with and knew really well and had worked with a couple times. So it was great. Cool celebrities, really, really nice. I was sitting right next to the folks from Everything Everywhere All at Once, and they won like best production for like a modern contemporary film or something like that.
Best hot dog fingers in a movie.
Yes, exactly. So it was really cool. It was cool to be there, but and because this was a Canadian show, maybe they didn't have a union. Who knows? I mean, they didn't probably have the Art Directors Guild, the American union. I imagine is probably not. I mean, maybe it is in Canada. I don't know. They're trying to expand and get unions in other places that are all connected together. But anyway, they hire, these productions, depending on what their budget is and whatnot, they will hire graphic designers and people to mock up these things to make stuff look good.
And they clearly didn't do that. In this case, one of the producers was like, I know how to use Photoshop. And he roughed together this absolute dog shit book cover for this guy that looks so bad. It's just a plain white cover with him on the cover and some really shitty font treatment for All About Soccer. It's terrible, and I love it.
It is I'm sure it's a bestseller.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
people are like, "Oh wow, look at this."
It's one of those great covers where, like, for if you're trying to make a bad cover, you would make it better than that. And like, this is clearly someone who's saying, I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to make the best one that I can make, and it still looks like shit. And I'm sure that maybe now the person who designed that is listening to this episode and they're getting their feelings hurt. And I am very sorry. I hope that you have improved in the 23 years since you made that.
I hope you no longer suck.
I hope that you've improved, because if not, do not design any more book covers. Please don't. Anyway, so he comes into the office and kind of wows her, and she's like, I don't really want to do this. But then we cut to them being on a plane heading over to Milan.
Dick jokes ensue.
Yes, the jokes ensue. He is talking about how his agent is mad at him because he was supposed to go to Rome or something for a cake ad, and she doesn't understand what he means. And he goes, cake, like, and she goes, oh, you mean beefcake? Because he flexes, and he's like, yes, feel it. I work out with weights. Feel my muscle. It's very hard. It's extra hard. And she's like, yeah, I get it. I don't want to feel it. And they keep saying this, and they keep cutting to Nigel and this other random woman who are sitting in the row behind them, looking at each other as he keeps saying, feel it. It's very hard. And she's like, I don't want to feel it. And this is played for laughs. They do this joke 3 times, I think, in the span of a minute. And
I think Nigel's recorded her having sex in the office with somebody else.
Probably.
It seems like something he'd do.
That's a thing that's a thing he's probably had fantasies about her, and that's what he was reading in the book later, and he's like, I didn't think it was possible.
I love about Nigel is that he has this 90s haircut, this floppy haircut that every like 19 through 25-year-old had at the time.
Uh-huh.
He wears these loose, boring gray sweatshirts.
Uh-huh.
He looks like a little kid. He's not. He's almost 30.
He looks like a child. There's at one point where he's in a limo and he's wearing a cap, and it looks like a kid stole a bus and is driving it around.
And yet he has his deep British voice.
Yeah, he has this deep British voice, and he wears his glasses on the ends of his nose like he's a 40-year-old dad. Like, it's a weird mix of characters and character traits. And I was trying to see if I recognized him from anything else, and I don't see anything.
I don't understand how this didn't launch him. He's in. there's a full sizzle reel of him and Tia Carrere that starts every episode.
That's true. Yeah, it doesn't appear like he's in much else. Like, he's in some movies and things. Maybe he did a lot of British television. I don't know. He is in some movie called Preaching to the Perverted, which, probably that got him this the Relic Hunter role. But yeah, he's not in much. He was the narrator of a Hitler show. So,
I mean, he's got a good narrator voice.
Yeah. So, I mean, good for him. He's in it looks like some BBC show called Mallory Towers as Mr. Lacey. So, that's what he's working on these days. But yeah, so they head over to Milan, and we see Roberto playing soccer, and at a high school, like you mentioned earlier. Like, this is clearly a high school in Toronto, and he's over there. His manager shows up, Kate. She's kind of mad at him because he's on this little like wild goose chase, and for not doing his job, basically. And this sort of leads to Sydney kind of recognizing that clearly Kate is into this guy. Like, clearly she's in love with Roberto, and he's just kind of oblivious because he is just looking at all women all the time.
And yet he wants the book of lovemaking.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, and they kind of wave it away at the end, but it's still very stupid. Like, they didn't need this because he's already a Lothario. He's already a Casanova of his own. Every woman that he meets is immediately smitten with him. Like, he meets Claudia, their little receptionist or whatever she is. I guess she's an office assistant, and she is immediately smitten with him, like right out of the gate. And it's silly why he would even need this, and when they give the reason for it later, it's even dumber.
And like, everyone kind of tells him, why do you need this? This is stupid.
Yeah, he just
and
wants
he's like,
it.
it's the book of love. It's the book of love. Ciao, ciao, Bella. There's a lot of just really bad Italian stuff in this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. There's some Mamma Mia's. There's some, they're fighting with some deli meats. Like, it's.
There's people in the background hand talking. Oh, there's some just amazing amount of hand talking in this episode.
So they go to an exhibit of Casanova's artifacts.
Well, that's
convenient. Convenient that this is happening in Milan, where they when they happen to be visiting. And I was curious, like, what? It's great that Toronto happened to have a Casanova exhibit at that time that they could go and film at, because I cannot imagine the show building that for just this episode. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It doesn't look like the basement cave set that they use 3 other times in this episode.
It just might be like the middle of a mall too.
Yes. So they're wandering around. They find a secret message, kind of a clue in one of the books that I guess it's the fake book of love or something. Isn't that what the docent says, that it's like, or is it just a different journal that he wrote in?
He wrote like a 12-volume My Life book.
Oh, okay. And so they find a secret notice about that's like a mistranslation, where the real translation is like, love isn't visible to the naked eye, which they take to mean, which we joked, we're like, oh, it's invisible ink. And nope, that is exactly what it is. There is invisible ink. And we also joked that maybe they'll use lemon juice to see it. And they make a comment about, we can't use lemon juice because it would destroy the paper.
They will still grab it off the thing and just walk around with it for a while.
Yeah,
but they will not.
They pull it off the wall and roll it up into a little roll there. So yeah, they're not worried about damaging it that bad.
This whole sequence where they're now hiding from people inside this museum that's supposedly closed for lunch or something.
Yeah.
But they're just laying on the ground and talking in normal volume, and it is so poorly done.
Good point. I thought that they were closing it at the end of the day, but they specifically mentioned that the guard is having lunch. So I guess they close it for lunch.
What is he having for lunch in Italy?
Well, looks like he's having some Chef Boyardee canned spaghetti.
Too much garlic. That's what the British guy has some criticism for the Italians.
It is exactly what you would expect if you cracked open a can of Chef Boyardee, poured it into a bowl, and put it in the microwave. Like, this is the Weber Cooks of lunches. Do you know what that is, Skinner?
I do not.
Oh my God. All right. Well, I'll send you down a rabbit hole later. I thought I shared this with you at one of our Thanksgiving get-togethers, but I've definitely shared it with our friends Bo North and her husband Brian. Not related to you, different Brian.
Why would I relate to everybody who had the same first name as me?
But Weber Cooks was a couple of viral videos. This guy who worked at a college. He basically did like a couple of like cooking videos for college kids, and they are the saddest cooking videos you've ever seen, mostly involving the microwave. And they're very they're very depressing. So I'll have to send you some links later for those listening at home. Check out Weber Cooks, because man, you will feel so much better about your life. So anyway, he's eating this bowl of runny, watery spaghetti, and while he's doing that, they steal his document scanner and run it over the document that they stole off the wall, and they find some glowing text in the document that tells them where the actual Book of Love is located. But of course, in typical Dan Brown fashion, it's a riddle. It's something they have to figure out.
And we should point out this is 3 years before Da Vinci Code was written, but also he wasn't doing anything original in the slightest. So
when did he write Angels and Demons? Because that also might be around this time.
It might.
Let's
be.
see.
Angels
I'm looking.
Demons.
2000. Yeah. Angels and Demons came out in 2000. So he was already
also a terrible book.
So I guess maybe 2000 was just the era of like mystery novels. But I did just say that this book, this episode was out in 99. So I don't know.
Maybe he was watching this show and was like, wow, Invisible Ink.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe Dan Brown took some inspiration from Relic Hunter.
We have to point out, though, for someone who's supposedly one of the greatest relic hunters in the world,
yeah,
and is genius or whatever, most of the stuff she does, so she solves something that's basically like you would give to kids to solve. The first one with Invisible Ink, like they did the word invisible, it's Invisible Ink.
Yeah.
The rest of the stuff she solves are basically it's Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
she leans against things and accidentally levers come out.
Yeah, she figures it out. Like they just kind of stumble upon this stuff accidentally. Like it kind of downplays how good she is at.
She even says at one point, "There's usually a latch or a something you push a button to open fake walls." And like, in reality, no, there generally aren't ancient things where you hit a button and a wall moves because they couldn't do that. And it wouldn't work hundreds of years later.
Yeah, it's very funny to think about like these different societies, different people. Like, all right, I'm gonna build like Casanova. When did he have time? Like they do talk about all the things that he accomplished. Like I guess he was an attorney as well. Like I guess, but he also had the time to build these contraptions that would hide things in secret passages and stuff.
I don't know when you see his place when he's making love, it seems to have windows and is well lit and is looks like just like a room anywhere.
Well, it's because they painted all that shit on the walls.
But when we see it here, it's below this cafe. It's underground.
Yeah. So
it doesn't make any sense to me.
No. So they find this message. They realize, okay, well, we got to go on this little. We got to figure out where it is. They talk to the docent at the museum, who is smitten with Roberto, of course. And she tells them all this information about like, oh, the cafe that he liked to go to, it's still standing, but or it's still there, but they've remodeled it and everything. But the basement's probably still intact. It probably wasn't changed at all. Well, gotta go. And then she leaves the show and doesn't return.
She literally says, "Oh, I gotta go," and starts walking.
And so they go to the they go to this restaurant, this cafe, and the reason that Roberto gives is like, well, the toilet's probably in the basement, so we can go down there because of that. And they go down into the basement where there is a guy just getting food, and he doesn't seem to notice that they're there, doesn't seem to care. And with Roberto being such a big soccer player, you would feel like everyone would be stopping him for an autograph or like.
I'm just still trying to picture like you are some kind of historian person, and like Derek Jeter is with some professor and tells you like, I'm looking for this ancient book on lovemaking. And can you tell me where the secret lair is of this famous historical figure from this country I'm in? And she's like, blah, 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 probably another thing. Gotta go. And then never thinking about this moment again in your life. Like in mid-sentence say, like, sorry, Derek Jeter, gotta go. Yeah, I'm just out of your life now.
Maybe now that Tom Brady's retired from football, he'll start looking for relics.
Oh, he's got to get clear at some point.
Yeah. So So they go down into the basement and they are looking around they pull a shelf out of the wall, and behind it there's some paintings that lead them to believe this is the way in, and they're trying to figure it out. And she starts looking through things, pulling tiles off the wall, looking for like switches and latches and things. And Roberto, who is horned up all of the time, proceeds to feel up a painting on a wall. Which
it's nothing special as a painting. It's just a generic
It's a woman who's like reaching out, but it's very like kind of hazy and worn with age. And
he's like, oh, she's so beautiful.
Yeah, and she's wearing like a flowing. Yeah, she's wearing like this flowing fabric, so it's not like she's nude or anything like that. But yeah, he's like caressing this painting, and then I guess touches her butt, and it is a switch that opens the secret passage.
It's amazing. If the show was like toned a little differently,
yeah,
it could be so much better in the fact that like the characters at times seem to realize everything they're doing in this episode is stupid, but it's not really played as comedy exactly.
Do you think that this joke of him like pushing the butt and it opening the door is like, hey, there's another entrance for you?
I think
I don't put it past this show.
I do like that he goes in and then he starts caressing a statue instead.
Yes, he's like, moving up from 2 dimensions to 3. So they go into this room, and it's the room we saw at the beginning of the episode, where Casanova, this is Casanova's fuck pad, I guess. His, and so they're looking around. They find a statue. He starts to. He's like, oh, so beautiful. And he touches the statue, and then they realize they have to introduce themselves to the statue, because that's part of they introduce themselves to Isabella, which is the statue there. And that's kind of one of the riddles. And Sydney grabs the hand and starts to twist it, and then it rolls backwards and opens a little secret drawer at the bottom of the statue where they find the Book of Love. And we're like, holy shit, this is 20 minutes into the episode. How the hell are how the hell do we still have half an episode left? And they really didn't know how to make this last 43 minutes, I think. Because they do the same thing twice.
They do the same thing twice. The second one's even worse. But
yes.
Of course, we had seen one person at the cafe earlier with a tattoo on their wrist,
yes,
which means there's a secret society in the episode.
Well, and we see that symbol. We see that symbol earlier when they're looking around at the exhibit. The camera zooms right in on this priest who's wearing a cross with like a snake wrapped around it, and we see that exact symbol later. And then Sydney later on goes, I think I saw that somewhere before, but I don't remember where. You're like, come on.
Come on.
It's been less than a day. You saw that.
So here's my question, and I know I'm kind of answering it with it, but it doesn't make any sense to me. So they have this fight, this terrible.
Yeah, they come out of the room, and these dudes in suits come down, and no one says anything like, hey, give us the book. Hey, who are you? What are you doing here? We need that. Nothing menacing is said. They just immediately launch into a fight scene.
And they're using salami as nunchucks with ADR sounds, throwing flour in each other's faces. Nigel puts oil on the floor and 2 people slip.
Yeah.
One of the bad guys just runs away, and then they go outside. He gets the book, and Sydney tackles him, jumps in the air and tackles him.
Yeah.
She gets the book, and he runs off, and then somebody on a little scooter comes along and grabs the book out of her hand and takes off, and she has no leads, and she no longer has the book. And then she goes, oh, he must have felt like he knew he could run away because he knew he had backup coming on the scooter.
Yeah.
Are these people attacking them who didn't say anything, are they the church people?
Yes.
But the person on the scooter is Kate.
Yes.
So they didn't have a backup.
No.
Because she is unrelated to him. She just knew they would find it, timed her scooter thing, stole it because she didn't want him to have the book.
Yes.
To be obsessed with it because she doesn't want him to become fucking more women.
Yes.
This makes no sense.
No, it's very stupid. So this guy on a scooter rides by, snatches the book out of her hands, and they're like, well, we don't know what we're going to do. So then they're like, all right, we don't know what we're going to do. We don't know where the book is, but Roberto, you need to deal with Kate because she's about to leave and she's obviously in love with you, and you should go to her and like try to figure out what's going on between you two, because you care about her, obviously, but maybe you're still too much into your Casanova mode. So let's go. So then she's getting into a limo to, I don't know how they fucking arrange this, but she's getting into a limo to go to the airport, and the limo stops suddenly, and the driver turns around, and it's Nigel. And then Roberto jumps into the car, and he starts talking to her and trying to figure out what's going on, and he notices she has the book in her lap. So it was her who hired the man on the scooter to steal the book to bring to her, which I don't know what she was going to do with it. And I thought we were going to get like a twist where she was like, I need the book for my sexy reasons. But no, she just wanted it because she wanted to get his attention, essentially, and have him pay attention to her and see how much she cared about him, I guess.
Or like, yeah, and she's mad at him. He wanted the book, and this exceedingly long conversation of, you know why I have this, do you? No, I do not know why you have it. Well, I have it because of the reasons. What are your reasons?
Yeah.
Ciao bella.
And then they throw the book into the front of the car, where Nigel puts up the little privacy screen and starts reading through the book, and he seems very entranced by what he's seeing inside. He mumbles, "Oh, I didn't know it was possible." Oh. And
he's making, and outside the car is Sydney, who's trying to figure out if things are going well with the relationship in the backseat, and he keeps changing how well it's going based on how much they're arguing or not.
Yeah.
And it's just a bunch of comedic face making for a while. And then she's upset
pantomiming.
And then he's obsessed with the book, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? And she comes over, she takes the book out of his hands, and is standing outside the car.
Before that, though, they do make we're talking about like kind of sort of double entendre jokes in this episode. I think there's one right here too, where she comes up to the window and knocks on the window, and he's reading through the book, and he sits there and he goes, "Coming," and then and then finally rolls the window down. And I'm like, yeah, they know what they're doing.
Man, it's a whole different world before the internet made porn so easy to look at.
Yeah,
where having a book that talks about sex, it was enough to get everybody riled up. Joy sex existed at this point.
Yeah, the Kama Sutra existed. That's what they're treating this like. They're treating it like it's the Kama Sutra. Like, oh, wow, Casanova, he had some weird things that he could do with his dick. I got to read about it.
He can. It's like Pinocchio. All I do is just keep telling lies.
How does he do the pretzel? I don't know.
But like, she pulls the book out, and she's standing outside the book now. And then a car comes by and snatches the book out of her hands again.
Yes.
And even they are like, I can't believe that happened again. That's so stupid.
Yes. Because I was like, I said when it happened, I was like, you got to be kidding me. And then immediately she goes, you got to be kidding me. And I'm like, yes, show. Yes, you do have to be kidding me.
And then like the soccer player is like, how is this even possible? It doesn't make any sense. And what do they do? They go back to the place and find out.
They do go back to the docent. That's right. They do see her again. She doesn't just immediately walk out of the show because they have to figure out what the symbol means. So
they should just talk to her for longer because she has all the fucking answers.
Yes, they do. Like, so she tells them what the symbol is, what the organization was. Basically, the group was a kind of a sect of monks called the Brothers of Eden, who were really like hardcore, and they wanted to destroy all the evil in the world that was brought about when Adam and Eve got sexually active, I guess. Like, they hate sexuality.
They're incels.
Basically, yes, they are incels. And so they want to destroy all of these things. So they go to the monastery where they are, because apparently the group still exists, but they mostly just try to help children, which is interesting.
And make honey.
And make honey. And so
why would this scene with the bees happen?
I don't know. So they go to the monastery, and Roberto decides to stage a distraction where he sees a bunch of kids playing soccer, and he's like, let me show you something. And then he kicks a ball into one of the beehives. that knocks the top off, like where they're harvesting the honey, and all the bees spring out and start stinging everyone. Which they should have had.
Dogs come out with the bees in their mouth.
They should have had the monks show up later with like bee stings all over their face. Like that would have been funny, like a good callback.
Literally no callback to this whatsoever.
No, so they do that and they run away, and then Sydney and Nigel go into the monastery. They find a group of monks who disappear into one of the. They go into a room and then vanish, and then this is where she stumbles onto finding a secret passageway by like turning a wheel or turning the top on this statue that opens up a doorway accidentally. So she goes into.
Good work, Daphne.
Yeah, she goes into this. They go into this like underground area, which looks remarkably like the underground area we were in previously. But it's got a lot of torture devices. I guess they're not really torture devices. I guess they're sort of medieval sex toys, is what they're implying.
Statues of David, you know, of various sizes.
Yeah, various statues of David's. A lot of them with the dicks cut off. Some weird kind of like metal. Like body casts and things like that probably were used for sexual purposes, because they see one and they're like, I wonder what that was for. And Sydney goes, well, I can think of 2 things it could have been used for. But the monks show up here and they basically say, like, we're going to exorcise the book, which is what we do with all of the things here. We exorcise the evil out of them, and then we keep them locked away forever so that they do not destroy the world, basically. And this
is when Nigel's like, what about, like, there's 1,000 worse things in this book now, like what all the Playboys and all the penthouses and all the leather lusty lasses.
Yes,
books.
Yeah. Well, he says
like,
that, and Sydney seems particularly interested.
Yeah, and she's like, you know, like, do you exercise everything? Because there's a whole lot of things. This is kind of weird that you're focused on this one old book. And they're like, people were more innocent then, so evil, bad stuff from then is more powerful evil. And like the show basically at that point just goes shrug. Like, even he doesn't look.
Yeah, it's like shut up. Stop. The actor doesn't look like about it.
The actor clearly, it's such a complicated and word salad explanation that the actor clearly doesn't know what he's actually saying and looks kind of confused.
Yeah. No, he just kind of rambles on for a little while, and then they have another fight, because of course they do. They've also kidnapped Roberto. They bring him down into the basement as well, and there's something nearby that is it looks like a soccer ball. It's like it's shaped like a soccer ball, so he uses that to kick at a bunch of guys. They step on some people's toes because they're wearing sandals, which is, you know, bad idea there. And then they kind of they get the book, and then they just sort of run out, and then that's it.
Yeah, and then they cut to them at like their victory discussion.
Yeah, they're just like, it cuts away dramatically. Like we see a quick shot of them running, and then like there's a hard cut, and we see Roberto pulling up in his car at this cafe, and it's just like, well, that's kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't quite get it. This is where I got the confusion over, like, I guess once you escape the room they're in, they're just not going to follow you.
They're just like, I don't care, it's fine.
I mean, they followed them to a cafe earlier.
Yeah, there's no reason why they couldn't. There's no reason why they wouldn't continue to hunt them down.
None at all. But, you know, they don't. So that's good for the good guys.
Yeah, so it just sort of ends, and then we get Roberto showing up with the book, and he's like, "Oh, I thought you never would have wanted to see me again after everything." And she's like, "Well, you know, I don't mix business with pleasure," and then immediately proceeds to kind of come on to him, like she's interested in getting down.
She's got the lowest cut shirt you've seen in the entire episode of. You know, like we get to see her in a swimsuit earlier. But.
Yeah, but yeah, she's dressed very, she's dressed up here, and he, you know, is is he's like, well, I don't think this would be a good idea. I clearly, and we thought like, oh, is this a test? Is she trying to like make sure that he is like kind of cured of his Casanova ways and he wants to be with Kate or whatever? But no, I think she is really trying to get on that soccer dick, and he's not interested for whatever reason, because I think he's already kind of mentally shifted to want to be with Kate.
But why? Because he won the fight in the basement? Like, what changed for him?
It's unclear. Like, it is unclear, but she does have a line which must have taken her 20 times to say, because it is a mouthful of a line of dialogue. She says, "The mind and the heart are the body's two most erogenous zones."
It's so hard. She says it so unconvincingly and so tonally flat.
Yeah.
That you like, oh, she had struggled with the scene, didn't believe it, or something. This is so bad. And then she's like, now you know you don't need the book. I know you wanted the book because you were afraid, to live up to your reputation and needed help or something. And it's like, he was almost willing to die for this book.
Yeah. And then she's like, you should go to Kate.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, she's like, you should go to Kate and let her know how much she means. And he's like, yeah, good idea. And he runs off and leaves the book there. And
what changed for him between the fight in the back seat and him still going after the book in the basement?
Yeah, it makes no sense. It's pointless. Oh, and that they do give us the reason here why he wants it. She's like, reading that book isn't going to make you a good lover. And he's like, no, I already am. I just wanted this for some finer points, basically. Just some details. I just needed some details.
In case I'm on a podcast someday and someone asks me what my fuck style is.
Yes, exactly. I needed to know which direction to tweak the nipples. But so
both in the same direction at the same time?
Or do I do it counterclockwise? Or I do one way and one the other way? I don't know. If they have a third nipple, how do I get that involved?
Strawberries or grapes? Which ones do I feed her while we sit in the boudoir, not doing anything, fully clothed?
Do I get my testicles involved in any way? I need to know.
Where
these things.
is the pee stored? Is it in the balls?
Is there a secret fourth hole that I can be involved in some way? But yeah, so he bails, he leaves the book there, and then Nigel sits down and is like, oh, I got our tickets back home. And they see the book sitting there, and then they both proceed to like try to fight over it and grabbing it. And essentially this book would fall apart in their hands. It's so dilapidated and old, but they're like pulling on it like they're two siblings fighting over a toy. And then I thought, okay, the episode's over. But no, it gives us this perplexing scene at the very end, this nice little coda moment where we see her back in the office, and she's putting some stuff on a shelf, and we see Nigel come in, and he is gripping his dick, like he's gripping his groin area, and he's hunched over and limping. And we're like, what the fuck is he up to? And he's looking for some aspirin, and he goes into her office, and she's like, oh, was it page 68 or something like that? He goes,
it should have been page 69.
Well, I think they were avoiding that joke, because then he goes, well, no, I think it was actually page 72, isn't it? And so I guess he's been jacking it, or he's been fucking. It's unclear what.
I thought they would have him to make him less pathetic, considering he's the character who was the sad puppy after the hot girl, who every person who meets her for the first time she's into, but not the person she's with all the time.
Yes.
That you would have him come out with a woman from The Office, and he has used the book, and he is now a stud.
Yes.
Instead, it looks like he hurt himself sucking his own dick.
Yeah, it looks like he's
shoving it into something he shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Like he got really hurt by like fucking the fridge, or like fucking the folds in the couch or something. Like something happened to his dick that he wasn't expecting to happen.
And in theory, it's everything in the book, if it's so amazing, should be not require painkillers afterwards.
Yes, exactly. Like I've just been pounding it so hard that
at first that's what you think is like he's got like rug burn.
It's like a snake shedding its skin down there.
It is it is such a visceral joke of him coming out and he can barely walk because he's been doing something in there by his lonesome.
Yeah.
This is a book that is supposed to teach you how to make love.
Yeah. Make whoopee the right way.
Make whoopee the right way.
Yeah.
In an elevator. But instead, he's only getting self-pleasure stuff out of it, which is bizarre to me.
Yeah.
Like, you could not, like, the joke is he uses the book and he gets a girl.
Yeah.
And she's like, wow. And you finally got a girl because this book.
And
or something.
So she's kind of laughing at him, and then they're like, well, where's the book? Because I told the museum they could borrow it for a month or something like that. Like, how does she have the authority to lend that out? Like, is she hanging on to these relics?
It's weird. I mean, because he's British, so he's the one who should be selling it to the British museums. This thing that's clearly belongs to Italy.
Yes, exactly. Like, why do they get to hang on to it? Why does Trinity University, which sounds like a religious school, why did
Liberty
they get to hang on to that?
Hobby Lobby University gets to
Trinity College.
No, they're in charge of that sect.
But then they're looking for it. They don't know where it is. And then they realize, oh, Claudia must have it. And she's got it hidden inside, I guess, a copy of some soccer magazine or something. And they see her with the book and she's like, can you explain something to me? And they're like, no. And then the episode ends.
I assume what she's a follower of is because I don't read 18th century Italian.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like in my mind, in the show, he wrote the entire book in modern English, but put like an A at the end of every word, like the old Michelinas commercials, where like you're not gonna pay a lotta for a top of qualitia. It's supposed to be Italian.
Well, good point, because there's nothing that she could know about that book, because the way that on the Wikipedia page for her character. She doesn't have a whole page, just her section of the Wikipedia
Weirdly,
page.
they have a full page to the receptionist from Relic Hunter. He's only in 2 or 3 seasons.
It's Sydney's office assistant who often helps out from campus back home while they are abroad. She sometimes plays a vital role and shares witty banter with Nigel. In spite of her general incompetence, she possesses a savant-like ability for organizing unorthodox and creative solutions to travel difficulties. In one case, arranging for them to sneak over the Angolan border disguised as Catholic missionaries.
Huh.
Yeah. So apparently she's a real dunderhead, but she would not be able to read this book.
I mean, they could have nothing is explained that, he wrote this book. He didn't draw a lot of illustrations.
Yeah, it is not the Kama Sutra in that there's not just bunches of pictures of things so that you can sort of figure it out. Like, she wouldn't know what was going on. Her
it's
question
not even
is
modern Italian. Like,
no,
none of us speak the languages they spoke in 1739.
Yes, because he even makes a point of that later when he's trying to decipher something. He's like, my original Italian is not good. Like, so
like there's been an entire vowel shift for all European languages since then.
Yeah. So her question is, how do I read this? What does it say? I'd like to think though that maybe Casanova was doodling little dicks in the margins.
I would like to think in 2000, just like people who just aren't on AOL enough are still amazed by that. Like, ooh, a picture of a penis.
But I think that is the episode of Relic Hunter.
I wish there had been the internet in this episode somehow, because it would have been so bad.
Oh man, yeah, that would have been pretty great. Yeah, this was a fun show. This was exactly what I was expecting it to be. Exactly what I wanted from it. Looking ahead at a lot of the other episodes, looking at a lot of the other things that they look for. I mean, sounds like it would be really fun to watch more of these, because like one of the episodes they're looking for Al Capone's diamond encrusted gun. Another one they're looking for Pioneer's bear flag of California, which okay. They're looking
I want to know why in every episode a secret society is also after it.
Well, sometimes I think it's like rival relic hunters that are involved. Sometimes it's the government, apparently. That are looking for
it's like
things.
Twister.
Yes. Like, yeah, it says they're usually asked to find a relic by some person or agency such as a museum, a private collector in disguise, or the government. So, rival relic hunters getting involved. She sometimes gets to show off her martial arts prowess, which didn't really happen in this one, despite the abundance of fight scenes.
She did nunchucks with sausages.
That's true. I don't want to impugn her there. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we could step back into the show. There's 66 episodes, so clearly, like in episode 57, they look for an extraterrestrial artifact. So they really are just going with whatever they want to at that point.
I think it'd be interesting. This episode was boring, which I know it shouldn't be for what it's, but I think they couldn't figure out the reason why they were looking for it and why someone else wanted it.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that really hampered the entire episode, but they did have an incredibly long scene with Tia Carrere swimming in a bathing suit. So.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the extraterrestrial episode, they got to aliens decades before Indiana Jones did.
Decades.
The finale, though, they're looking for the keys to Stonehenge.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I guess that it cranks up like a car or something.
I hope like it like this episode is a thing where someone's been searching for something for centuries and she just stumbles upon it immediately.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Stonehenge. I have never got around to this. Let me see. Oh, I figured it out.
Yeah. I have the keys.
You lost the keys for Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Like you lost the cure for cancer.
It'd be funny if she just had an old key ring full of things. He's like, oh, this one, it has SH on it. I never knew what that was. I never tried it. I figured it was just like a janitor's closet or something.
I just turned this knob here and Stonehenge opened. What does that mean? I don't know.
But yeah, that's Relic Hunter. I mean, it's a dumb show, exactly like I expected it to be. So if you're looking for a dumb 2000s action show, here you can't go wrong here. But maybe maybe next time on the show we'll have something even better to recommend, because next week on the show we're sticking in 2000s. We're sticking with women-led action adventure shows, and we are covering Sheena with Gina Lee Nolan from Baywatch, based on the 1984 and 1955 films. A pre-existing property that I've never seen an episode of, but I'm excited because it also features John Allen Nelson, the lead from the movie Hunk, that we covered a few times on Predictocast. A few times we covered that movie. Great movie. Definitely you should watch it. He's a very hunky, handsome man. So I'm looking forward to that. And I found out that we have 5 episodes of Sheena that were directed by Carl Weathers.
Oh, fantastic.
So we might have to cover one of those. We'll do what we do normally with these kinds of shows and try to find the one with the dumbest plot line. Maybe we'll find one that has something to do with sports or something to tie it together with this episode of Relic Hunter. But yeah, Carl Weathers directed 5 episodes of that, and he did a lot of 90s and 2000s television. Like, he also previous episode covered or directed 3 episodes of 18 Wheels of Justice, directed 8 episodes of Silk Stockings, which we are definitely going to cover, and also directed an episode of Renegade, which we are definitely going to cover. So he got around. We might have to do like a Carl Weathers month where we just do episodes of shows that he directed.
We do love Carl Weathers on this show.
Yeah, he's great. So I guess we need to, before we wrap it up completely, we need to put this on our scale of weirdness. So where do you think that Relic Hunter rates?
For one, the idea that they just ripped off the idea of Tomb Raider, which was very hot at the time.
Yes, which also just ripped off Indiana Jones.
Which is over Indiana Jones. Which this Relic Hunter eventually led us to the Uncharted movie that no one remembers exists. Mm-hmm. But I like that. Not surprised when this happened. Like, not at all. Of course they did this. Got 3 seasons because it's such an easy pitch.
Yeah.
But I don't think they know how to knew how, even in season 1, they already ran out of ideas on how to put this idea into actual motion. And this episode is so isn't self-serious at all.
No.
But it's so confused as to its own internal motivation that I'm going to rate it a 6.5 out of 10, completely based on the fact that, like, no one in this episode seems to understand why they're doing anything.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that, I'll go with 6. I'll go a little lower. And again, if you're kind of new to the show, these ratings mean nothing. It's just
they go into a bin.
Yes,
immediately.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back through all of our previous episodes where we've rated them, and I'm gonna mark down what the ratings are, and then we'll do like we'll like figure out what is the weirdest show we've ever covered based on these arbitrary ratings.
And then all the people who made the show will get paid a bonus based on what their number was on this website.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's a very dumb show. It's very silly, but I recommend it. I'm looking forward to Sheena next time on the show, because that also seems like a very dumb, silly show that will be very interesting. We do have an idea for the episode that we're going to cover, but we'll poke around. We'll see maybe if there's something else. I mean, there is one episode with just a picture of John Allen Nelson where he just looks like a buff Alan Grant from Jurassic Park. So we're gonna have to dig around on this show, which only got 2 seasons, sadly. Apparently didn't have the pull of a Relic Hunter to get 3 out of the gate, but yeah, I'm excited to look into that show too, because it seems like also every picture of John Allen Nelson from the show, he's cut the sleeves off of his shirt, so I'm excited.
I mean, once you start doing that, you have to live with that as your lifestyle going forward.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But that's going to do it for this episode of the show. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed talking about it. We hope that you'll join us next time on the show when we're covering Sheena from 2000. Can't wait to get into the jungle and see what sort of mysteries and action and adventure we get involved in there. But until next time, I'm Josh.
I'm Skinner.
And we want you to keep it weird, and also go for a swim, or play some soccer, something.
Or just get some aspirin if you're just really going to wear your dick out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, stock up on aspirin before you start pounding it.
Best advice we've ever given on this show.
You've been listening to Center of Weirdness. If you like this show, rate and review us wherever you find it, but especially on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to every episode at centerofweird.com, where you can also find all of the old Predictocast episodes. And if you want to get in touch with us to tell us about a show we should cover, hit us up on Twitter at WeirdCenter. As always, thanks for listening.